The Ethical Implications of Practicing Outside of Our Competency, We Can Do More Than Autism by Samantha K. Smalley. Behavior analysis has been around since about the 1960s. Through decades of research, behavior analysis has made huge strides in the treatment of individuals with developmental disabilities, teaching styles, and understanding higher levels of learning. Primarily, research and clinical practice are most seen in the field of autism and other developmental disabilities. Through understanding three-term contingencies, behavior analysts are able to manipulate the environment of individuals suffering from these disabilities to give them a better quality of life. In labs, we are able to demonstrate behavior modification in animals through differential reinforcement, schedules of reinforcement, and positive and negative reinforcement. It is important to note that the areas of study in which we focus and the behaviors we are hired to change are of social significance. In a bulletin released by the U.S. Department of Justice, nearly 2,224,200 people are currently incarcerated. In 2000, that number was about 1,945,400 people. While that number slightly decreased, it is barely a noticeable difference for the already overcrowded prison system. In a study conducted by Black and colleagues, they reported that nearly 1 in 3 women will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. With these statistics brought to light, it is important to understand what these are at the root of their problems: behaviors. I believe it is unethical that we are not more involved in these key societal issues. While there are some behavior analysts diligently working away at trying to solve these problems, I believe we can and should do more. The prison system and domestic violence prevention are all areas in which behavior analysts can be more proactive. In a report released in 2014, there were nearly 1,577,500 people incarcerated in the American prison system. The same study reported that approximately 4,708,100 people were under community supervision, which included probation and parole. The idea behind the prison system is to fix the prisoner while they are in prison, and once they have served their time and are returned to the general population, they will be normal, functioning citizens. However, this is clearly not the case. Even in 1974, Martinson found no credible evidence that suggested the prison system reduced recidivism rates. Holland addresses this notion that we view criminal behavior as a mental disorder that can be fixed. However, we as behavior analysts need to place more emphasis on the contingencies that created the criminal behavior, instead of treating the criminal behavior itself. Behavior analysts could consult with political leaders to encourage a redistribution of wealth to American citizens to where the cost of living would match income earned by each citizen. However, that socialist mindset is not a common view of American people. Behavior analysts could instead potentially coordinate with after-school programs in low-income neighborhoods to provide enriched environments for children. Negative social behaviors may be inadvertently reinforced by parents and other family members, thus strengthening problem behaviors. Though intervention with the child is common, which is considered short-term, intervention with both the child and the family may prove to be more successful, considered long-term. Wolf and colleagues also advocate for supportive treatment. Another way behavior analysts could be effective is being more involved in the parole process. We can help with restructuring halfway houses to help provide engaging activities for the individuals to participate in during times where they may engage in criminal behaviors. Overall, behavior analysts have so many simple tools to not only help reduce the initial incarceration rate, but to decrease recidivism rates as well. Ethical Codes 4.03 speaks of the behavior analyst's responsibility to eliminate environmental constraints that hinder behavioral program. With this in mind, looking at the entire structure of the prison system, I believe it is part of our duty as behavior analysts to create a more suitable environment. While the prison system may not solely be relying on behavioral principles for how it conducts its practices, it is under the behavioral facade that alludes to this. Ethics Code 4.05 speaks of the importance of the use of reinforcement procedures in addition to punishment procedures. Though criminals should not be reinforced for their problem behaviors, perhaps creating a more reinforcing environment may have an effect on the prisoner's overall behavior. Even in a prison system, being rewarded for good behavior could be instrumental in the rehabilitation process. Domestic violence is one of the most pervasive situations facing women. With 1 in 3 women experiencing domestic violence in their lifetimes, it is time that behavior analysts take a stand with this important issue. In a report released by the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, they suggested many different ways women can stay safe on a college campus. Some suggestions listed are inviting a friend to walk with you, keeping doors and windows locked to all doors in a building, and to be aware of your alcohol limit. But the bigger question is, why are we not intervening with men? Myers addressed a few hypotheses about this stay behavior seen in women. One explanation is that women face punishing consequences when trying to escape or avoid abuse. There are also social punishers such as the stigma of living in a shelter and negative criticism from peers and family members. Myers also addressed contingency specifying stimuli as defined by Schlinger and Blakely. This term explains how functional and proximal antecedent and consequent stimuli can be altered by rule-governed behavior and modeled behavior. By seeing a particular behavior modeled, this behavior may now be in an individual's repertoire. It does not mean that an individual will exhibit this behavior immediately after experiencing the model or even in his lifetime. For example, seeing violence in the media. One major strategy that Myers suggests is intervention and assistance for women who experience domestic violence. By designing a shelter that provides support, assistance, and therapy, women may be more likely to seek help if the alternative is more reinforcing than the current situation. Another method proposed by Myers is through legal and judicial systems. The third intervention provided by Myers is an intervention strategy for the batterers themselves. Behavior skills training and acceptance and commitment therapy may prove beneficial in these situations. The final method put forth by Myers are societal changes. I believe this is where behavior analysts can play the largest role in decreasing the prevalence of domestic violence. Myers suggested the use of media to disseminate information about domestic violence statistics, resources for both men and women, and commercials where men are seen reporting domestic abuse. The same principles that created and shaped the original behavior could be used to shape the alternative behavior. According to Ethics Code 7.02, we are ethically obligated to disseminate behavior analysis to the general public. With that being said, it is also our ethical responsibility to ensure that those practicing our procedures are adequately trained as seen in Ethics Code 5.11. Another important ethical code which speaks of the importance of behavior analysts practicing in socially important areas is Code 9.01. However, as behavior analysts, it is important that we are on the right side of change. We should always refer to our code of ethics in regard to ethical practice. Nearly 30 years ago, homosexuality was listed as a psychiatric disorder in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. In a study conducted by Reckers and Lovaas, behavior principles were used to defeminize a young boy. Through the use of a token system, exposure, and punishment procedures, this young boy was cured from his feminine tendencies. This procedure was thought to be successful in preventing and curing homosexuality. The same arguments that I had made previously had been used to justify this treatment. During this time, this was a socially valid issue. The methods used were empirically supported methods. There was a socially desirable outcome of the treatment. However, upon further analysis of our Code of Ethics, Code 2.01 discusses the definition of a client. To complicate matters further, Code 10.13 states that written consent must be obtained in research. In regards to a child, how can you be assured that a client is consenting or assenting to treatment? In the case of Reckers and Lovaas, I argue that the parents were treated as a client and not the child. Under that condition alone, this treatment was unethical in accordance to our Code of Ethics, regardless of the societal viewpoints at that point in time. Ethics Code 9.05 states that behavior analysts should avoid using false and deceptive statements. Though we are able to understand that behavior is behavior in all settings, the majority of our research is in developmental disabilities. This does not always transfer into other populations. Finally, I argue for the ethicality of practicing outside of our competency in regards to important societal issues, in accordance with Code 1.02. While that sounds horrifying and unethical at its face value, that is not really what I'm encouraging. Behavior analysts should try to step out of our comfort zones of one area of expertise and adapt that to a socially important area as well. In accordance with Ethical Code 6.03, a behavior analyst should consult in an area that they are adequately prepared. This may mean that if they are interested in domestic violence, for example, that they should try to consult with other professionals not only in our field, but in other helping professions as well. As behavior analysts, we have empirically validated tools that are capable of important societal changes. We just need to start somewhere.